ones and twos over here at the Awesemo MMA Live Before Lock show. Boy, Pete, we have got a ton to talk about. I get in front of the computer about 30 minutes ago. I'm like, okay, let's get the lights set up. Let's get ready to go. And then I just see right on my tweet deck, well, I think the tweet was, well, we're down to 9. Do we count 8? But we're down to 9 fights. Like, I wrote out this list of things to talk about here. And then I guess we'll just start about, we got 3 canceled fights. Yeah. It all started yesterday with Ryan Benoit. With what happened there on the scale, I'm still can't believe that any commission even let him attempt to get on the scale. So him versus Adeshev is off. Philippe Lins comes down ill. Him versus Rothwell is off. And we just learned within the last half hour, Amanda Ribas's father has tested positive for COVID. So her matchup against Angela Hill is off. And man, the dreaded words in Mma Dfs, I don't like to say, stacking is viable.
What is going on, everybody? Thanks for joining us today for the ugliest card in history. I'm excited to talk about some of these fights or what we have left, but unfortunately we did lose some important fights for our DFS structure. There were some fighters of those fights that I was targeting, and unfortunate for my buddy, Adeshev doesn't have a fight. We're left with a very, very small card. So in order to cash or in order to really separate yourself from the pack, you have to get extremely different. So now I think this is a type of card where perhaps logic isn't weighed as much as normal. I think variety, randomness, especially if you're going on over to Awesemo.com, checking out Fantasy Cruncher, getting the right formula to really maximize leverage positions and maybe possibly doubling down on people that are going under owned, because you're going to have to get different. It's going to be chalk city from top to bottom. But I do agree with you. I think stacking is viable, and that's going to be a very, very common start to a lot of lineups. Just put in the main event, both fighters,
I'm doing that in cash. My one cash lineup, I am putting the main event just because my hope is that Michelle Waterson can go 25 minutes, get somewhere around 50 points, and then, of course, just kind of let the volume roll up for Marina Rodriguez. I talked about on Thursday on the strategy show, I thought Marina Rodriguez was a much better play on FanDuel as opposed to DraftKings because of the takedown defenses that she can, potentially going to have to stop. You remember in her Michelle Waterson's last fight, she was 1 for 18 in takedown defenses. She won that fight, very close decision. But as I recall, Angela Hill was optimal over on FanDuel. Even in a loss, she had, I want to say it was 131 total strikes, or I think it was 131 significant strikes. I want to say it was 146 total strikes there. But the one thing about this is if you're playing in those big GPPs, I think you just got to come with understanding of, if you have the optimal lineup, you are going to split it many ways with many people. So I think that's a mindset that's got to be in here. But I think if there is a way for you to get different, you have got to look at some low-owned fighters. Of course, we're also a Plus member. You can get our ownership projections. And as I always say, when you're looking at those ownership projections, I'm always looking 20% and under. And the fighter to me that I think is going to help you get different, if he can somehow win this fight as a massive underdog, it is Mike Trizano.
Yeah, and I don't think that Mike Trizano's skill set is represented correctly with his DraftKings salary, right? Like he's a very skilled athlete. Obviously, we haven't seen him in quite some time, so there's some hesitance about like what does he look like now after a long absence? Is he improved? Is he worse? Coming off a loss in 2019 to Grant Dawson, tough to really be disappointed in a loss to Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson's phenomenal within the division. But I do think that a lot of people, Ludovic Klein, most expensive fighter on the entire slate, going to naturally, just have a ton of ownership attached to him. So either maybe fading Ludovic Klein and, rostering his opponent is a way to get different, or perhaps just being underweight on the fight altogether, because maybe Ludovic Klein still wins, Jason, but he doesn't pay off that salary and it's kind of a wash and you could have picked some other spots. But I agree with you. I think Mike Trizano's not bad. You're going to have to roster people on this card. We talked about it that you don't feel comfortable with. Mm-hmm. But, I have a question for you, Jason, before we actually get into something else. For FanDuel, right? On a day like today, since you enjoy playing on FanDuel, Are you stacking on FanDuel?
My thought process goes into who are the fights that I think there's going to have takedowns in. Main event is one of them, the Waterson side of the equation. Co-main event, Cerrone Moroni, I think plays out on the feet. Magny Neal, I think plays out on the feet. Green DeLima, I think plays out on the feet. Fahea Gillespie, I think we do see takedowns in that one.
Yeah.
Hawes Dawkins, I think if the fight goes later on, we could see takedowns in that one. Klein Trezano, maybe a little bit. Park Tafon, that is one I definitely see. Harris Aguilera is one that I can see. Like, so I would look at fighters to potentially look at on FanDuel: Christian Aguilera, Tafon, Phil Hawes, Diego Fajea, Marina Rodriguez.
Yeah, so I get everything you're saying. So I feel like for roster construction, a DraftKings stack of the main event makes a ton of sense. Maybe a FanDuel stack of the main event doesn't really make as much sense over on that platform. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's interesting. I mean, obviously that's the platform that you dominate on. You know, FanDuel's tricky, but obviously if you can leverage positions where they're facing a grappler and they come out victorious, you're going to, you know, have a large edge over the field for, you know, absolutely. So I'm interested to see what our audience is questioning and what they have concerns about.
Of course, start lining up those questions right here on YouTube or in our premium Slack channel. We will get to those, of course. Be sure to subscribe to Awesemo right here on YouTube. Hit that notification bell so you know when a show is live here on the channel. We have great programming for you each and every day. Of course, coming up after us will be NBA Deeper Dive. Then following them will be NBA Live Before Lock to get you ready for tonight's NBA slate. I will be a part of NBA Live Before Lock tomorrow as we are counting down to the end of the season. And boy, I guess we're going to have a Lakers in a play-in game. Ooh, that's going to be interesting.
Oh, God.
There are some TV executives that are dreading that one. But, of course, we do have free premium tools and data over at Awesemo.com today, including MMA fighter projections, also NBA player rankings, MLB main slate ownership projections, and NHL player and stack rankings. Of course, those MMA fighter projections can help you develop your lineups today over there. Fights, actually, before we get the fight to prioritize, we saw Diego Fajea miss weight by 4.5 pounds yesterday, and how we should take this news. So I offered up my thoughts in Slack yesterday about this. There's a couple ways I take this. A, is there an injury? B, was basically Fajea's body just stopped cutting weight, wasn't sweating anymore. Or C, was a decision made by the team, we're not going to make weight, so why are we going to drain you if we're still going to miss weight? Let's step on the scale. We'll be 4.5 pounds over. Let's see if Gillespie will take the fight at a contract weight of 161 pounds.
Yeah, those are all great points. And I think when you're looking at a weigh-in, you have to really kind of just like jot down and, you know, consider each one of them, right? They all could be factors. If a fighter comes in, misses weight by 4 to 5 pounds and they look soft or they don't look good on the scale, that really kind of is an indicator to me that maybe they had an injury throughout the training camp or they weren't able to train at their full potential. So that's where I would sit there and I'd be like, okay, well, I don't really feel confident anymore in a situation like that. Now, when you are paired up against a wrestler, we talk about it all the time. If you can strategically have just a little bit more weight on your side to maybe level out some exchanges and some scrambles, you know, it's a strategic move that a lot of fighters do when they're facing off against wrestlers. Now, does that mean that he's not going to get taken down? Probably not. He's probably still going to get taken down. But what that extra weight can do is it can weigh on his opponent for, you know, maybe not being accustomed to being with such a heavier guy. You know, but for me, like, I go off of body language a lot when it comes to, you know, the weigh-ins and also physical shape. You don't want to sit there and expect it to be a bodybuilding competition because some soft frames end up being extremely victorious in the cage. It doesn't mean anything, but you can tell a lot by body language, you know, some confidence. Then you can kind of look at the body a little bit.
In terms of fights to prioritize, there are two fights I have labeled. One that I feel no confidence at all in, and that's Maurice Green versus Marcos de Lima. The other one is Christian Aguilera against Carlton Harris. In terms of Harris and Aguilar, if you're going to be a Harris backer, which I am much more of a Harris backer than I am Aguilar, I am counting on takedowns. And we have seen throughout his time, whether we're talking about in the UFC or outside the UFC, the struggles of that Christian can have when the fight goes to the ground. But Christian he's got bombs in his hands. And if he can land one on Harris, he can end the night. But this to me is a fight. Yes, it's the first fight of the night, and everyone knows I don't love playing the first fight of the night. But to me, you have to prioritize the first fight of the night. And this was when we had 10 fights. This was when we had 12 fights on the card. I still thought this was a fight we had to prioritize.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like the first fight a lot. I am favoring Carlson Harris in the matchup. I do think that, he can crack Christian Aguilera, who's had somewhat of a suspect chin at times. He's been finished via strikes numerous times, but has been taken down often throughout his career. And you saw that in his most recent loss of how he was taken down and submitted. I think that Carlson Harris can kind of mix things up enough to keep Christian Aguilera guessing, maybe get some takedowns to solidify rounds. Obviously, Christian Aguilera is a phenomenal GPP play because of what he did in the Anthony Ivy fight and what he's done in some of his victories throughout his careers. If he can stuff some takedowns or just impose his will on his opponents, he's got dynamite in his hands. So, I mean, I agree with you when it comes to prioritizing the first fight of the night. I don't really see how that's going to be a boring fight by any means. Still favoring Carlson Harris in a matchup. I like him quite a bit.
I will tell you, with the changes of when I was doing my CSV for my 20 max, I've got exposure everywhere. I did try to limit my exposure because when I ran my numbers initially, I was getting way too much Donald Cerrone, Cerrone. So I ended up limiting my exposure. But I will tell you, in terms of single entry and cash lineups, I did have a core that I really liked tonight, and I know I should say that because usually that's a kiss of death. But when I talk of fighters that I know I'm high on today, is De Lima, Marina Rodriguez, Phil Hawes, and Jung Young Park and Carlson Harris are like 5 fighters here today that I found myself being overexposed on them in terms of single entries and in cash games.
Yeah, I mean, most of our breakdown is for, talking about big field tournaments, but we do talk about how when you are in 20 maxes or single entry, you have to change, your approach, and especially when it comes to lineup construction. I do think that prioritizing who you want to have at a part of your core. And for me, Jeff Neal's the guy. Like, Jeff Neal is the guy that I like a lot in the card. I know it's not an easy matchup by any means. I think that he can touch Neil Magny on the chin. I talk about how when you face Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, after that fight with him, regardless of how bad you got dominated or picked apart, I feel like you level up because he's such a tricky guy to face. Mm-hmm. So Jeff Neal's a guy that I really, really like. Marina Rodriguez is somebody I like, but it's so hard to feature her a part of my core when she's been taken down a ton of times in the UFC. But, I'm looking at the card, and guy like Gregor Gillespie or Jeff Neal, kind of like 2 fighters that I feel like you might need one or the other.
Yeah, especially with that takedown ability that Gregor Gillespie does have. Of course, we're going to get into listener questions now, but before we get to that, of course, we talk about those ownership projections, and a way to get access to those is to become an Awesemo Plus member. You can sign up for an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95, gives you access to all the tools and data that we have over at Awesemo.com, from ownership projections, player projections, our premium Slack channel, and so much more. And if you just want an MMA pass, you can get that for $8.95. Go to Awesemo.com/join. Stop guessing. Start winning. Join Awesemo Plus. Want to mention Nate right here at the top on our YouTube. He said, he goes, my first time using Cruncher for MMA. Any tips? Nate, I will tell you my go-to in Cruncher right from the start is I'm looking for 2 fighters, uniques per lineup. I'm also going with a 20% randomness. That's kind of my go-to.
Yeah, so I do Fantasy Cruncher a little bit differently, and I like to select some people a part of my core. So I like to build groups, and I would suggest maybe going into the advanced options tab, going in there and finding maybe 2 fighters on a 9-fight card that you like, and saying my lineups need to have one or the other. Or both, or whatever you want to do. You can make a core with however many people, and naturally what that will do is include those fighters in your lineups and start to give you different variations of it. Then you can manipulate the the ownership or your exposure levels to it. So definitely a great tool. If you guys aren't using Fantasy Cruncher and you're trying to win, big GPPs, it's very difficult to do so when it comes to hand building, but I do like my hand builds. Jason, we have 300 people in here asking us questions or ready to have us answer questions. We got to get those likes up if you guys can. Shoot your question in the chat. We'll get right to it.
Morgan asking me over in our Slack channel. He goes, who would you play in captain mode on DraftKings? So just pulled up the captain contest. We got Klein at 15-3, Rodriguez 14-7, Lima 14-1, Neal 13-8, Gillespie 13-5, Cerrone 11-1, Dawkins 10-8, Hawes 10-2, Morono 9-3. So I kind of feel like I might go in the Jeff Neal route as kind of the safe option.
Yeah. I think the Jeff Neal is a nice safe option. A lot of people will be liking Dawkins today because of what we've seen of Phil Hawes in the later rounds, of how there's like a significant drop off in terms of performance, in terms of cardio. And if he's unable to get Dawkins out of there early, how does he look? Because we have seen Dawkins be live from bell to bell, come back, have incredible moments against Brennan Allen. So, I think Dawkins is a very, very sneaky play today. And despite me liking Phil Hawes, I make sure that I'm going to be getting plenty of Dawkins.
Nick says, he goes, are you confident De Lima can get a finish before gassing? I tend to think Green can weather the early storm. That's breaking down the fight in a nutshell. Like to me, and because there was a question earlier in Slack about who would you take in a DraftKings GPP, Neal or De Lima? And De Lima, I could see winning in under 60 seconds. Yeah. So then we're talking about first round finish. There's 90 points, 25 bonus points for under a minute. And let's just say he lands 10 strikes. That's going to be a huge score. But that heavyweight fight, I don't trust either one of these guys. To me, if you're a De Lima backer, you are praying for a first round finish. If you're a Green backer, just like what Nick said there, you are just hoping Green can weather the storm. De Lima gasses out, and Green can get a stoppage second or third round. In terms of the betting odds, if you want to maybe take a little flyer, maybe take that little flyer on Maurice Green to win round 3. I earlier in this week, it was like plus 2,500. It was a crazy number.
Wow. Yeah, that's silly. But I agree with you. I personally like Jeff Neal because I think that he's in a great spot. As far as DFS production, though, Rogerio de Lima might have a higher upside because of the knockdowns, because of a potential early finish. He knows that he has about 7.5 minutes of cardio. After that, that's when his opponents really start to come back and impose their will on him. But Maurice Green isn't it doesn't have the best cardio either. At Greg Jackson's, if you look at his body and his shape, he looks like he's in pretty good shape this time around. Rogerio de Lima, at American Top Team, I just really like over, in general, has the experience edge. I didn't think he looked horrible in moments in that Romanov fight. I understand he got choked out by a big man move of just kind of leaning a forearm on somebody, but it's probably because he has terrible gas. But I think that Rogerio de Lima, he hits so hard, he knocks people out, and he swings so hard that a guy that gets hit so much like Maurice Green could be in trouble. But come from behind triangle from Maurice Green, man. What I would do for me in a GPP, I think this fight's going to be a part of the optimal. So I would include either one of these two in my groups. I really would. I think that's a nice way to start.
Yeah, no, that's a great point that you bring up. The one thing, if you are a Green backer, is if he does end up on his back, Maurice Green has a really good triangle off his back that we've seen him use throughout his time. Michael says 3 fighters you want to avoid at MVP over on FanDuel. Well, it's easy to kind of point out underdogs. Well, looking at the favorites in this one, I do not think I want to go Donald Cerrone at $22 in the MVP spot. That's a fight that I could very easily see end up being a 15-minute fight. I don't know if I want to go. I guess you could go Klein $23.
I probably wouldn't go. Would you go in the main event because of the 5 rounds?
I would go Marina Rodriguez, especially because of all the takedowns. I think
Yeah.
she is someone you have to, when you're circling out fighters to put in your FanDuel MVP spot. She has to be one of the fighters that you're circling to put in an MVP. I think it's. I think you look at her. I think you look at Jeff Neal. God, I hate to put anyone in the main event, but you got to kind of look there. I mean, really, I think my top two would be Neal and Rodriguez.
Yeah, it's so hard to like look on such a 9-fight card and have scratch offs, so to speak, or fighters that you don't want any exposure to. I think naturally Mike Trezano is going to come in pretty low owned. You know, he will probably incorporate some grappling because I think the striking of Ludovic Klein is absolutely legit, and he has knocked plenty of people out and could get finishes in multiple ways. So naturally, Mike Trezano probably wouldn't make any sense in a spot like that.
Next up, it was asking about which 9,000 fighters are you the most confident with? Mine would be Maria Rodriguez.
I think Marina Rodriguez is going to get it done. I do. I think she's going to pick apart Michelle Waterson. I don't think Michelle's really looked all that good in the UFC, like in totality. I think that like she's had some tough fights, right? Of course. But outside that last victory over Angela Hill, it's kind of been okay. You know, I mean, like I thought there was, lofty expectations when she came into the UFC. She's good. Don't get me wrong. She's really good. I mean, number 10 strawweight in the world. But I do favor Marina Rodriguez in the matchup pretty heavily.
All right, we got this question in YouTube, and I'm sure it's a question that a lot of people have. Other than the main event, what fights could we stack?
Okay, great question. Guys, we appreciate you. All right, who are we stacking? Let me pull this up.
I'll tell you, I look at Neil Magny as potentially one of those fights.
So many takedowns, right?
Neil's length, he could land some strikes at 7,200. The other one that I might look at is, what if Phil Hawes gets off to a great start?
Yeah.
Gets a knockdown, maybe gets a takedown, racks up some early points. Kyle Dawkins survives, but then Kyle Dawkins comes on in the late second, early third, gets a late third round finish. That could make that fight optimal.
Yeah, there's no way I would stack the Rogério de Lima Maurice Green. That's a hell no. That's a hell no.
All caps.
Yeah, that's a hell no. The one that I'm looking at is Trezano and Ludovic Klein. If for some reason it's just primarily on the feet and Trezano's able to mix in some takedowns, but you have to think Klein still has to pay off that 9,400, which is extremely expensive. So I will actually agree with you and say that the Kyle Dawkins Phil Hawes, because it's in the mid-range and because of the volatility and untrustworthy cardio of Phil Hawes, Kyle Dawkins' comeback ability, that makes probably the most sense as a second fight to stack. Third fight to stack, if you had to, would probably be Jeff Neal Magny for perfect examples of what you talked about. Neil Magny's length, some volume, but excellent takedowns to rely on and maybe win some rounds. But Jeff Neal puts on a hell of a performance and gets it done.
Michael mentioned, he goes, how much salary is too much to leave on the table on FanDuel? Under $10? I would not leave over $10 on the table.
Well, depends on what type of, like, how many entries you're doing.
Well, I mean, here's the other thing. I think the question becomes is, how many underdogs are you putting in your lineup? Correct. If you sit there and say, okay, I'm putting Trezano at $8, I'm putting Diego Ferreira at $10, I'm putting Maurice Green at $9, okay, then you get absolutely anybody you want.
Yeah,
but I think if you're going over $10, I think you're potentially leaving too much on the table.
Yeah, I think 10's about right. I think 10's kind of like right in that spot. 8 to 10 is more where you should be. Beyond 10 is obviously you're getting extremely risky, but being risky pays off sometimes.
Yeah. Can you play both Dawkins as a captain and Hawes? If you do that, I think that's the scenario that I labeled out a couple minutes ago. That's a scenario that has to play out for it to work.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
The problem is when you're stacking, you're now rooting for no stoppages. You're or a in a 3-round fight. Or in a 3-round fight, the finish comes in minute 14. And what you're hoping for is that you got knockdowns or takedowns to help build up that score. That's the one thing, that's why we said you can't stack Green into Lima, because the path to victory in that. Yeah, hell no. You just can't. Like someone asked, single entry, who you taking, Lima or Green?
I'm taking Lima. Yeah, it's Lima.
Yeah. God, I don't trust either one of those guys.
No.
And look, I've interviewed Maurice tons of times. Funny dude. See, he seems to have found the right gym for him, where he's been at a couple of gyms over the past couple of years. You can see he's leaned out. And the big thing at Jackson is he has a lot of heavyweights to work with.
Yeah, so they got sneaky heavyweights over there.
I don't know if you've seen this video. It was one of the heavyweights' birthday the other day.
No.
So all the heavyweights took body shots.
I love it. That was my gym tradition. What we do is when it's somebody's birthday, we crack them with that many leg kicks, and it's like so brutal. But it's a nice little happy birthday from the team.
No question there. By the way, if people didn't watch the Bellator fights last night, you missed some pretty brutal knockouts.
I know, guys. I was on the road all yesterday. I got a new puppy, and when Jason hit me up and told me about all this crazy news that happened, I'm like, oh my goodness.
And this was before the Angela Hill rematch.
Yeah, 100%. So
give me a little behind the scenes here in the show. I call Pete and go, hey, here's some things I'm thinking about bringing up on the show. Okay, all right, cool. And then, of course, 30 minutes before, it kind of all changed on us.
Yeah, right.
The Smoking Pig brings up this, and I'll kind of answer this. He goes, how do they test positive for COVID after weigh-ins, and they pass the first COVID test, and then 24 hours later they test positive? WTF, makes no sense. So here's how it works. You show up to, in this situation, Vegas. They've already taken a test before getting there. Obviously, that had to come back negative. Then they take the test. Once they get there, that goes negative. There's a quarantine. And then after the weigh-ins, they are tested once again. I'm not an expert on COVID. All I can just tell you, they take multiple tests. If one of those tests comes up positive and somebody in your team, you're going to be off the card. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really a better way for me to put that. Rick says, can you guys talk about the fights most likely to stay on the feet, looking to take overs on significant strikes over at Monkey Knife Fight? Of course, this show is sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. Of course, with Monkey Knife Fight, you are in charge. Be sure when you sign up, use that promo code Awesemo for an instant first match deposit up to $100. Of course, the one that we brought up was Maurice Green and DeLima. Very low number. So if you're going to go less, oh man, you are hoping for about a 60-second knockout in that one. But that's the thing with Monkey Knife Fight, all about more or less. The contest that I do love to play over Monkey Knife Fight is significant strikes. So the Maurice Green and DeLima, I believe DeLima was like 16.5. Maurice Green, I want to say, was 29.5. I want to say.
I think it's going. I mean, it comes down to how many shots can these guys take before they topple over. All right, I think that naturally they should be able to throw that many and land that many, whether it's leg kicks or anything. But I think that fight's going to be on the feet. I don't see Rogerio de Lima trying to take him down. I don't see Green trying to take him down, even though Green probably could pull off something sneaky on the mat.
All right, more or less on the main event. Marina Rodriguez, 82.5 significant strikes. You go more or less.
Damn. So 5 rounds. How successful will Michelle Waterson be with her takedowns? That's the question. I'm saying over.
If you are going to go 25, if you believe that fight's going 25 minutes, I think you click more in that situation.
I think more too.
Michelle Waterson on the other side, 61.5 significant strikes. My gut says you go less.
Yeah, I don't see that, right? Because her striking hasn't really been the same from Invicta to the UFC. If she started to utilize more of her kicks and became more kick dominant, I think that'd be awesome. But yeah, I would say less for Waterson. She's probably going to be looking for takedowns immediately. Here's
an interesting one about a fight that I believe will play out on the feet. Okay. Donald Cerrone versus Alex Morono.
Yes.
More or less 56.5 significant strikes for Cowboy.
He's going to mix in takedowns. He is. He's so much better than everybody with takedowns. I mean, with his grappling. I think that's about right. I'll probably say less. And I don't, just because with Cowboy, right? How often is he coming forward? Okay. He gets backed up a lot. And how many actual combinations is he going to throw rather than pop shotting? I'll say less, surprisingly. And I do think that it will be mostly on the feet, besides when Cowboy mixes in the takedowns.
If this fight plays out over 15 minutes, I think that number's very close. I might go more because of leg kicks. That's something to pay attention to there.
Cowboy is one of the hardest kickers ever. If he calf kicks Morono, he could get him out of there in one round. Yeah. Can you imagine Cowboy just calf kicks?
Yeah, exactly. Alex Morono, more or less 36.5 significant strikes.
That's over. I mean, that's more. That's more. 100%. It's more.
Yeah, I'm man.
Cowboy gets hit a lot.
Yeah, that's an interesting line over there. So be sure to check out our friends over there at Monkey Knife Fight. I'll get some other questions that have come in here. Someone asked over in our Slack, Hawes FanDuel MVP thoughts. I don't mind that play because if Hawes wins, he's winning by knockout in the first or second round.
Most likely. And he, Dawkins is a big guy, big frame guy. We'll probably press him against the cage and put him in some interesting grappling situations, or try to.
Nason says, getting different and bigger GPP, do you think fading all the 9K fighters could be an optimal strategy? Well, if you're going to fade those fighters, that means you're fading Marina Rodriguez, Jeff Neal, Marcos Rogério de Lima, Luvia Klein.
Okay, you have four. You have 4 9,000 options with 9 fights.
So now your pool is down to, so we're at 9 fights, so 18. So now we're down to 14 fighters.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I would suggest that, but you're on the right track, right? You have the right mentality with it. What I would do is probably only roster 1 9,000 option. And I think that's a nice way to get different.
Yeah. Someone said we're sleeping on the karate hottie.
I mean, I'm not really sleeping on her. I know that she's good. I know that she has good takedowns. I just think that on the feet, she hasn't really impressed me that much. And if you guys remember, I like Michelle Waterson over Angela Hill. So, I love Michelle Waterson, but I don't really think that this is a great matchup for her.
Next time we were asked about Park or Tafon. I really like Park because of the takedown potential. Young fighter on the other side too.
Yeah, young fighter. Tafon and Chukwi, young fighter, 5-0, relatively green in MMA. Looks excellent though when he throws his combinations. Jun Young Park, 16 MMA fights, mixes in good punches, good takedowns, good awareness, solid ground and pound. What happens if he does take down Nchukwi? How does Nchukwi look off of his back with somebody who's really skilled at the UFC level? And I think that Jun Young Park is a legitimate middleweight. So I like Park a lot as an underdog. And I still think that Tafon Nchukwi, if he gets a win here, he's super, super legit, Jason.
Of course, one of the things we do love to see is when we check those DFS leaderboards, we see that Awesemo avatar, and there is a way for you to get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame. First, you got to download that Awesemo avatar, awesemo.com/avatar. And when you place in the top 3 of contests of over 5,000 entries, all you got to do is tweet that win to @Awesemo HOF on Twitter. You'll win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And of course, some of the winners that we have seen over the past couple of days, MWP taking down first and second place over there on No House Advantage, winning $6,000. Also, Elway's Army scoring some wins over there in NHL, taking down third, winning $1,000. Also, Vio in NBA taking down the first place there, winning $5,000. So congrats to everyone there. Of course, you see it right there on the screen. Download the avatar profile pic at awesemo.com/avatar. Tweet your wins to @Awesemo HOF and win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you place in the top 3 of a contest with over 5,000 entries. Get some other questions here. Thomas says, I bet draw on the Dawkins fight. What do you think? Can you see Hawes 10-8 round him in the first?
It's not a bad, thought process. I think that anytime you play a draw, you should automatically assume that it's not going to hit. It's not going to hit. And as long as you're okay with it not hitting, then you're fine. If you're really trying to time a draw, very, very difficult to time a draw because judging nowadays has been very inconsistent, especially in the UFC. We've seen it across the board. We've seen it, but it's just MMA is so tricky. I mean, one person can score a 10-8 round, and one judge cannot, and now you don't have a draw. So I think if you have like some spare money, I'm okay with it, but I that's not like a priority to me. But if there's a fight that could end up in a draw, that would make a lot of sense that it's that one.
David says best picks for one entry is shoot up the top of the rankings for DraftKings. This is where you got to be looking at the major underdogs here. So you got to sit there and say, do you think it could be Trezano? Can it be Diego Ferreira? Can it be Alex Morono? Can it be Neil Magny? I think those are the 4 fighters you have to look at and say, if any of them are going to win, who is it? And if one of those fighters wins, they will be in the optimal lineup.
Yeah, so it's 9 fights. So we are really going to have to be on your A game because you have to match the chalk in the correct areas, right? Because if somebody comes in 40, 50% owned and they have an explosive performance like a Gregor Gillespie who could possibly take down his opponent 10 times throughout the bout, bust the slate, and you don't have him, but you have a lot of other correct pieces, you're still on the outside looking in. So combining correct chalk is extremely important. I think Gregor Gillespie comes with good chalk. I think that, if you want to get some leverage, you go in the other direction. But those underdogs that you spoke of, Trezano, Magny, just naturally make a ton of sense. And even like a guy like Morono, Cowboy Cerrone, in all actuality, on a 5-fight losing streak, I'm rooting for him. I think that it's a good matchup for him. But maybe a lot of people are flocking to the name, and Morono's an excellent leverage play, still priced as an underdog.
Next question was about who are the fighters $14 and under over on FanDuel that we like. To me, the 2 that stick out to me are Hawes and Park.
Yeah,
both $14.
Yeah, I think that they're great values over there, honestly.
Green, Waterson, and Trezano on DraftKings. I would rank it.
Boy.
Waterson, Green, Trezano.
Dumpster diving right here.
Pretty much.
Waterson, Green, Trezano.
Waterson may be the safest of the 3.
Yeah, so Waterson's naturally going to be in a lot of lineups today because of the stack. So whether you view that as a good thing, I don't think that she's going to win the bout. I would probably prioritize Green and Trezano in GPPs, Waterson and cash.
Get a couple of questions from over in Slack. Boss says, best MVPs in a FanDuel GPP. To me, it's Rodriguez and Jeff Neal. Another one from Kilo Whiskey says, did you go over DraftKings GPP Core and fights to target? Yeah, fights to target. To me, it's got to be the opening fight of Harris and Aguilera. The other fight you got to target is Lima and Green. A core for me, I had 5 fighters that I would say are my core that I'm kind of sprinkling in various lines in different ways. Marina Rodriguez, Jeff Neal, Rogerio de Lima, Phil Hawes, and Jung Young Park and Carlson Harris.
So I think that Hawes and Dawkins fight is like really, really important to the slate. I really think it's extremely important. I also think the Diego Ferreira and Gregor Gillespie fight is one of the most important fights on the slate based on chalk, based on ownership, based on Gillespie's performance and his wins. And the absence of him Fajea could come in as he's one of the most talented underdogs on the slate. So those are two fights that could be going a little bit more overlooked than I expected. I think that they're right there with the first fight of the night as GPP candidates.
Next up, it says, is it smart to fade Klein and Rodriguez in a single entry? Overall, I would say no.
Is it smart to? I think I'd probably fade Klein in the single entry, right? Like I would be okay with I like having a late night hammer when it comes to basketball if it makes sense for ownership or if it makes sense for a smash spot. And Marina Rodriguez over 5 rounds can accrue a ton of points with significant strikes and maybe even a potential finish over Michelle Waterson if she is overexerted from trying to take her down so much. But, Marina Rodriguez, FanDuel Gold, decent on DraftKings.
How many dogs will be in the optimal?
3. Because they don't even have to win.
That's very true.
Yeah, they don't even have to win. It's going to be, 3 of the highest, scoring fighters and the 3 remaining of losses or not.
Let's see here. Apart from the main event, which is your favorite fight to stack? To me, it's here Neil Magny or Hawes Dawkins.
Yeah, we touched on it before. I agree with you. I think that makes a lot of sense. If you are stacking 9 fights, you already know, okay? And I've talked about it. Don't be the idiot that stacks 2 fights and is in first place and early on in all these contests and all these entries. But on a week like this, could we see a double stack take it down? Probably not.
Probably not. DeLima or Klein in a single entry on DraftKings?
Oh, God. I'll say Klein, even though it's a rich salary.
Yeah, I was thinking Klein as well. Tony says, can we talk about the Park Tafon fight? Thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I like the fight. I mean, it's a real gauge to see where Tafon Nchukwi is at. I thought that he'd have he had a dominant performance against Jamie Pickett, but I thought he'd be able to put him away. I do think that Jun Young Park represents different challenges in a fight against him. Not just willing to stand and trade, willing to mix it up, attempt to take him down. That's why I think Jun Young Park is an excellent DraftKings underdog. Tafon Nchukwi, a little sneaky on FanDuel if he's able to stop some takedowns.
Best option in a DraftKings GPP under 7.6K.
Oh, God. Oh.
So if we're talking 7.5K and below, so we got Trezano, Diego Fajea, Maurice Green, Neil Magny, and Michelle Waterson.
Who's the best? The most skilled fighter is Diego Fajea, 100%.
No question.
Yeah.
But there's also the questions about why did he miss weight by 4.5 pounds?
True. Skill wins out sometimes, and I like looking at that bottom end a lot of the time when I'm stuck on this last piece or last 2 pieces, and I'm kind of sitting there pondering, who am I going to roster? And then I think about their skill set in comparison to the rest of the division, even if I don't really like the matchup so much. And Diego Fajea is interesting. Not an easy fight. Neil Magny, another really, really talented guy. I mean, 33 fights, tons of UFC experience. If he can take people down, I mean, we've seen him do it to Jing Liang, who's just as easy a dynamite puncher as Jeff Neal is.
Of course, if you're looking to score a free Awesemo Plus pass or just want to stay up to date on DFS news and Awesemo offerings, make sure to follow all of our Awesemo social media channels on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and join our Facebook fan page group as well. We run exclusive giveaways for each platform to maximize your chances on winning by following each one. So be sure to check that out over there on our social media channels. Mention this question from Nick. He says, is Tafon's takedown defense going to hold up for 3 rounds? That's ultimately the question.
That is a great question. It is a great question. I think that it's hard for big guys to really maintain strong takedown defense throughout. you'll see lighter weight classes take down the fence because of great cardio and all that. It's more on seeing him battle through adversity. How is he okay if he's the B side in the fight or if he's on the receiving end of some shots? I do like Park as an underdog. I really do. I mean, William Knight regionally was trying to take him down, and he tries to take everybody down, and he was KO'd within 1 round. But outside of 1 round, I think it favors Genuine Park.
Yeah, it's by the way, speaking, I don't know if you saw this. William Knight's got a fight booked.
Dude,
New England versus are they? I was thinking about it. Like, are these guys maybe trained together at some point?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. They probably cross-trained. I mean, I saw that pop up on my feed today. I'm like, of all people, why? Why? You're 2 New England guys. Why are you going to face each other? Of all people in the UFC. But I guess the mentality also is, right? Maybe we were bound to fight each other in the New England scene. We were supposed to fight each other a couple of years ago, and now we get to get paid crazy money under the lights in the biggest promotion in the world. So I see that side of the argument as well.
I've got an interview on my show tomorrow. I was talking to a regional fighter who took a Muay Thai fight on 48 hours notice.
Okay.
It was against his friend and training partner.
What an idiot.
So basically, his friend's opponent pulls out. He's working the club, messes at 1 a.m., and by noon next day, they said, hey, let's both make some money. We would do this in the gym anyway, so let's get paid for it.
My buddy and I talked about it. My buddy Nate, if like a huge fight ever came and it came down to that, we have the same mentality because you battle each other out, in the gym all day long. Yeah, but I don't know. It's a weird situation.
Yeah. By the way, as of last check, lock is now 6 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll be out of here in about 5 minutes or so. So you'll have another hour to get those lineups in. I will not be watching this card live. I'm actually going to the Toronto Raptor game tonight. So
nice.
Watch a little basketball, a little, cocktail in hand.
Can we get some courtside photos or something? Like, I want to see, that's cool. Like, I've only been to 1 NBA game, I think. Okay.
I've been to, multiple. Usually drive over to Orlando, but, thankfully I now only have to drive about 10 minutes to get to the arena. So that's always a good thing.
So weird.
Let's see here. Dawkins and Scherzano or Magny and Hawes.
I like the first one.
Yeah. The fight with Neil Magny, I don't know, man. I don't know. Neil Magny. I guess I need to say the full name to say this. Neil Magny to me is a guy that when you're talking a top 10, top 15 type fighter, I'm going to favor Neil Magny more times than not. But when we're talking about a guy that I truly feel that Jeff Neal has got top 5 potential, these to me are the type of fights that Neal does not win.
Yeah, I mean, the upper echelon is really, really tough to crack through sometimes. And I will agree that Neil Magny has looked like a superstar against a lot of people, but he's been given opportunities to kind of catapult his career. He's fallen short, and we've seen that to other fighters as well. The takedowns need to be there for Neil Magny, though.
Of course, be sure to follow Awesemo right here on YouTube. Got a ton of great shows for you each and every day. NBA Deeper Dive is coming up next as they are going to be getting you ready there. Morgan says, the pro plays going to get updated for Pete's projection, and with late scratch news, I will be updating my pro plays once we get done and out of the show here. So you can look out over there as got to make some adjustments over to my pro plays with I updated them this morning. Thought I did all my lineups this morning, Pete. I was like, all right, I'm so good, man. Don't got to worry about it. That's Mma Dfs for you.
Yeah, I mean, we remember when we had the cancellations literally like during the show, and that was a scramble fest. But I mean, it's MMA. We know how it is. Fights get dropped off and all that. Coming up in the next couple weeks, I think next Saturday, I'm actually out of town. I'm not able to be here with you, I think. And then the week after that was going to be a tricky week because I will be in the bubble cornering my friend who is fighting on Bellator because I'm a striking coach. So
first off, I have done plenty of interviews with fighters in the Bellator bubble. The Wi-Fi is fine, bro.
I know I don't have a laptop, so I might be able to I might have to do it from my phone. So, but I mean, I'm down.
How do you not have a laptop in 2021?
Cause dude, like I have my phone. My phone is great, and my laptops are outdated, and like like the updates are just completely out of control. And now I just need an entirely new laptop.
Maybe we just bring Nate on the show too. We get Nate's opinion on the fights.
Imagine.
Oh man. So if there's any last minute questions you have here, be sure to line those up. I do feel like we've touched on anything. I think the fighters that we're really maybe not talking a lot about to me would be Alex Morono.
Yep. Diego Ferreira.
Tafon would be another one.
Christian Aguilera. Yep.
I just think Harris uses takedowns in that fight. I really do. That's just where I'm at. Who goes to Takedown City?
Gregor Gillespie's going to try to take, Diego Ferreira to Takedown City, and I think he does.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. But so we've got the UFC pay-per-view next weekend. I gave him a little hat tip on the strategy show. If you got some tickets in your DK, there's some satellites there to win some tickets to next week's pay-per-view GPP. So I know someone maybe didn't necessarily enjoy that. I brought that tip up.
Yeah, I'll have to start doing that. I would love to utilize some of my tickets for sure.
That was a little tip that I got from my colleague over on NBA Live Before Lock a couple months ago, Eric Lindquist. He and I never thought of that. I was like, damn, that is a damn good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have all these tickets just sitting in your account that you rarely ever use, but that's the way you use those tickets. But and also Rick says, he goes, I won some satellites from NBA Showdown. Thanks, Pete. Look at you over there helping people out on some NBA coverage.
I don't know what I did. I don't know what I did, but I'm glad I helped.
He said, I meant Jason. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, we kick the knowledge on Sunday nights. Me and Eric have some fun. We like to troll each other at some points, as he sometimes definitely has that Stipe Miocic look going for him. So
nice.
But of course, as you get out of here of the show, be sure to hit that thumbs up, subscribe to Awesemo. Coming up next is NBA Deeper Dive. That is going to do it for us. Good luck to everyone tonight in your UFC contest, and we will be back on Thursday for the UFC 262 strategy show.